Hi, I'm Mike Sargent, and this is Arise on Screen.
What's up, dog? We're back.
When we last saw them, they were in high school again. Now, they're undercover in college. Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill's star in 22 Jump Street. Ethiopia's rapidly growing film community sent 5 young Ethiopian filmmakers to this year's Cannes Film Festival. We'll introduce you to a new generation of Africa's filmmaking future.
Filmmaking for me is like my tool to make something for my people and for myself.
Can you recall for me the first time you encountered the signal?
The what?
What is The Signal? The new sci-fi mindbender stars Lawrence Fishburne. We speak with writer-director Will Eubank about his journey to bring his first feature film, an alien abduction tale, to the big screen. All this and more on Arise on Screen.
Hello, I'm Mike Sargent, and welcome to Arise on Screen, your global home for films both on screen and behind the scenes. So let's get to it. First, with this week's box office winners. The Fault in Our Stars tops the box office this week, followed by Edge of Tomorrow, X-Men Days of Future Past, A Million Ways to Die in the West, and Godzilla rounds out the number 5 spot. And in movie news,
those savages are threatening our whole operation. We're on the brink of war, and you're supposed to be finding a diplomatic solution.
Not even death can get in the way of Sigourney Weaver returning to the sci-fi blockbuster series Avatar. Her character Grace Augustine died in the 2009 film, but director James Cameron recently announced that Weaver will return as a new character in the upcoming Avatar sequels to be released starting in December 2016. Weaver loves a good sequel. Movie veteran Danny Glover is out to catch the bad guys again. This time he co-stars with Nicolas Cage in the film Rage. Cage plays Paul Maguire, a reformed criminal who returns to his old ways and is out for blood when his daughter is kidnapped. But can he bring her home?
I just don't want you falling back on any of your old habits.
And internationally, coming off her Cannes Film Festival appearance in May, Sophia Loren went on to steal the show at this year's David Di Donatello Award in Italy. The 79-year-old Italian icon won for her work in La Voce Umana, The Human Voice, a short film by her son Edoardo Ponti. The Donatello Award is one of Italy's 3 main film awards. Loren has won a total of 7 for her acting and received a career honor in 1999. And finally, legendary stage and screen actress Ruby Dee passed away this week. Dee, 91, starred in over 100 films, including the 1961 version of Raisin in the Sun and a 2007 Best Supporting Actress Oscar nomination for her role in Ridley Scott's American Gangster. Dee and her husband, actor and civil rights activist Ossie Davis, appeared together often in films, including Spike Lee's iconic film, Do the Right Thing. Ruby Dee, you will be missed.
and in festival news, the 21-year-old annual African Diaspora International Film Festival features globally themed films created by African artists or artists of African descent. Its mission is to expand the universal scope and image of Black cinema. Tango Negro, the African Roots of Tango by Angolan filmmaker Dom Pedro, is just one of the films featured in this year's festival. It explores the contribution of African cultures in the creation of the tango. The festival, presently touring in Chicago from June 13th to the 19th, heads to Washington, D.C. next month and to Paris in the fall. I'm joined today by filmmaker, artist, and film critic from Italy, Chiara Spagnoli Gabardi, and film critic Julian Roman from MovieWeb.com. Welcome, both of you. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
Okay, and before we get to all our movie reviews, I have to acknowledge the passing of Ruby Dee. And I want to ask you each what your favorite film performance from her was.
Well, I mean, you got to talk about A Raisin in the Sun. I mean, that's a film that basically defined her career, was instrumental at the time as an activist in the 60s, her and Sidney Poitier. She was also in the Jackie Robinson story. When you talk about Ruby Dee, you're talking about someone who's a humanitarian.
I agree.
You know, really transformed Harlem, you know, got the Kennedy Center honors, just a titan of cinema, someone who's really legend in our industry.
I concur. And you, Chiara?
I also have in my heart A Raisin in the Sun and Do the Right Thing. And what I really loved about this woman was that she could wear so many hats so brilliantly. She was an actress, a poet, an activist, and she did it all so well. So.
Well, I agree, and I had the wonderful opportunity. I designed and printed their 50th anniversary, wedding anniversary when they did that. And I have to say, I really liked her work in American Gangster, which she got nominated for a Best Supporting Actress Oscar. So Ruby Dee will most definitely be missed. And when we come back,
same identities, same assignment.
We're going back to high school?
You look like you're about 50.
Coming up, the boys are back. After making their way through high school twice, Officers Schmidt and Jenko go deep undercover at a local college. Channing Tatum, Jonah Hill, and Ice Cube star in 22 Jump Street, here on Arise on Screen.
We're brothers too.
So now this department has invested a lot of money to make sure Jump Street keeps going. The only problem is the Koreans bought the church back, so we're moving you across the road to 22 Jump Street.
22 Jump Street is a sequel to 2012's surprisingly good blockbuster hit. The entire cast from the first one is back and talked about having fun with the movie.
We just tried to make fun of the idea of making a sequel as much as we could, and luckily the audience rode along with that.
It's fun, you know, because with these guys, you can go over the top with it. You know, the character is so cliche, you know what I mean? Anything goes, and that's what's so fun about playing it.
Welcome back to Rise on Screen. With me in the studio are film critics Julian Roman, Chiara Spagnoli, Gabardi. So, first of all, I want to say that I was surprised that the first 22 Jump Street was good. This one I thought was much better. I thought it was very imaginative. Now, you agree with me, Chiara. We'll get to Julian in a minute. But tell me why you like this and what you thought that they had great chemistry and
yes, I thought
really
they had great chemistry, and I thought the script was also very witty. The plot itself is very predictable, nothing we haven't seen already, but the jokes were really, really funny, and they worked so well together. So I'm wondering what you didn't like.
Yeah, you felt the whole thing could have been ad-lib. Talk to me.
You know, I think the entire film is a giant skit. It was basically the same plot as the first film. Again, now I'll say it's funny. I mean, there are some laughs in it, but when the best thing about a movie is the end credits, that kind of makes you wonder.
See, I disagree. I thought the end credits were the perfect cherry on the cake of that movie. This is a movie that, I mean, let's face it, it's a buddy cop action. It makes fun of all the genres, and it makes fun of itself, and it makes fun of the fact that it's a sequel. That didn't work for you.
It's a guilty pleasure.
I've seen it all before. I mean, it's the same plot. You know, they're going back to school. They're searching for another drug. It's the same kind of gimmicks. Now, I'll say I'm in the minority. Everybody else thinks it's funny. But when the end of a movie, the credits is the funniest thing, your script isn't that good, in my opinion.
All right, well, that's your opinion. Okay, our next film is How to Train Your Dragon 2, the sequel to the computer-animated mega hit. It made a splash at this year's Cannes Film Festival. At the red carpet premiere. At the red carpet premiere, stars Djimon Hounsou, American Ferrara, and Jay Baruchel talked about the evolution of their characters.
Well, he's sort of dealing with stuff that I think anyone at 20 deals with, which is trying to reconcile that difference between finding out who it is you're supposed to be and who your parents expect you to become.
But my character is still a kick-ass, you know, awesome chick who's riding dragons and winning races and running off to save Hiccup from the bad guys. So she's a wonderful character to play.
Let's blow this place, Belch!
Now, you like this movie, I think, maybe even more than I did, and definitely more than Chiara. I thought it was very good. I thought it had a lot of story in there, and it's based, there's 12 books in the series, so they have a lot of material to work with. But you thought the animation was stellar, actually the best animation you've seen this year.
Oh, by far, Mark. I mean, it's a beautiful film. The 3D is great. The rendering is great. But more than that, the story is it teaches a lesson to kids. You know, I don't want to give away anything that happens, but Hiccup really grows up in this movie. He's forced to face something very, very adult, and the fact of the matter is, you can have an animated film that's very cartoonish, but when you can actually teach a kid something, I think that's beautiful, and it's also very entertaining.
See, on the other hand, you thought that the 3D animation was lame and didn't add anything to the story.
Well, I always make this test when I go see 3D films. I try, when I'm seeing the movie, to take my glasses off and see if there's a difference. And in this case, I didn't feel the difference. There again, the animation was beautiful, and the themes in the film were very remarkable. As Julian was saying, the theme of loyalty, and as we saw before, the children wanting to take away, wanting not to follow in the footsteps of their parents, but somehow end up following their lead. So I thought those were the most interesting parts of the film.
Well, I'm somewhere in between both of you because I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the first one much more than I expected to. And I thought that this film, it took a little while for me to really care about the stories. Now, you seem to think that Jabaru Kel is very likable. I found him very annoying. I found his voiceover very annoying. It was probably the hardest thing for me to get over, is his voice characterization, even though I liked the movie. And it didn't pass the 3D test for Chiara.
It didn't.
So, well, our final film is Evergreen, The Road to Legalization. This new documentary is an insider's look into how the citizens of Washington state legalized recreational marijuana.
Drug prohibition is the biggest failed policy in the history of the United States of America, second only to slavery.
We arrested more Americans in the last year than ever before, over 800,000 Americans, 90% of them for simply possessing a little marijuana.
Many police officers, many prosecutors ask themselves the question, what are we accomplishing here?
We have an opportunity now to change course.
Now, Chiara, I'm curious mostly about your opinion here. Not that I don't care about you, Julian, but because I felt one of the things about this film, I liked it, and I thought it dealt with the issue very well, and I was fascinated how we saw that whole process. But from a global perspective, do you feel that this film really challenged it and really gave us a perspective of how this is all over the world?
Well, possibly. It could be universal. I'm from Italy, and there's a very similar situation because in 2006 we had a law which enhanced the detention for the use of marijuana, and actually is the same as if you're using heroin or cocaine. I thought it was very interesting. I don't know if a film will be as powerful in changing, well, possibly changing the people's perspectives rather than the people in power, but, you know,
I understand.
One step at a time.
Now, Julian, you were more dismissive. You felt that this is maybe for neophytes, that clearly you know a lot about this, and you found that there was nothing new in it.
I might be an expert in this arena here, Mike, but basically there's a lot of films that are like this. Now, this is really talking about Washington State, and it talks about Rick Steves' whole mission to, have the recreational marijuana be legalized, and it's very interesting, but it's kind of like we've seen it all before, and this is now 2014, so Colorado's been there and so on.
Well, we're going to move on, and we'll be back.
While in Cannes last month, we talked to a new generation of Ethiopian filmmakers. Coming up, these women will tell us how they're paving the way through film to continue their proud tradition of storytelling. Next, on Arise on Screen.